We have a very special guest with us today, Quinn Kobrin. He's going to help us answer some questions about millennials and give us some insights. We're going to talk a little bit about millennials and buying behavior, purchasing behavior, your thoughts on the subject. There's a lot of conversation going on about that. I think it's important for small to medium-sized businesses to know that the landscape of the buyer audience is changing.
Right.
It's not just baby boomers that dominate the market, right? It's a different culture. The way we look at this, we don't want to necessarily say that just because you're a millennial, you're this way, or just because you're a baby boomer, or just because you grew up in the Great Depression, you're this way. But we do want to say is that your culture and the environment in which you grow up in does shape and influence the way that you think about the world around you. You know, obviously we're not trying to create blanket statements and saying all millennials are this way.
Right, yeah.
I'd like to introduce Quinn. He's involved in a lot of stuff. You may have seen one of his plays, Travis Theater, right?
Travis, Sanjak, Murder Mystery Company.
So he'll be a lot more polished in this than I'll be. Tell us a little bit about what you're into these days.
Well, right now I'm in school for mass communications, and I'm not positive with what I want to do with my life right now. I just am kind of leaning towards using what I'm good at, which is speaking and writing and just getting out to people and everything, and trying to push that in a positive influence, whether it be through trying to write to change policies or something, or just share good news, which is what I basically do right now.
Oh, speaking of that, you bring up a really interesting point. One of the reasons I wanted to bring Quinn here today is because we had a discussion not too long ago at a family function about his video podcast or vlog, or what do you call it?
I call it, it used to be a podcast, now it's a vlog, basically.
Vlog. Okay. So, and it's called The Good News. Tell us about how The Good News kind of came about.
Okay, so I started it early February, late January, around that time, because there was a lot of hate going on Facebook because of the inauguration and politics, and just so many people, friends and family, were yelling at each other and just being so aggressive and mean to each other, and I was like, this is ridiculous. These are my friends. These are the people I want to talk to.
And you've seen people, family included, that jump off. They just kind of check out like, hey, no, thank you.
They stop talking to people. They stop going onto Facebook at all. So I was just like, this is not a place for this. This is a place for people to be comfortable and be happy. This is a social media. Right. So I was like, I want to put something positive out there, share some happiness, and put good vibes out, basically. So I started just asking people, hey, what is making you happy right now?
That's a simple enough question.
Yeah, what is good in your life? Right. And I initially didn't tell people what was going on. I was just like, hey, what's good? What's your good news?
So you snuck their good news into your cast.
I would ask them for it, and then I wouldn't tell them about it until I tagged them in it the next day, which is basically still what I do, but a lot of people caught on to what I'm doing.
They're on to you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, in your videos, what do you feel like is the goal? Like, what perceptions are you trying to change? Are people craving good news? Are you finding you're getting good feedback from this? Encouragement?
The people that I ask about it, you usually have to go out and ask them, hey, are you enjoying this? Because not many people are like, hey, you're doing a great job. But the people that I talk to about it, they love it. Right. I personally get my own personal amount of joy out of it, just sharing people's good news. But I find that just in my circle of friends, the people that I do talk to about it, they're all like happier that they have their own good news and it's shared with people, and that they're able to revel in someone else's good news. I just think that it's, even the small amount of people it might affect it just is a general good thing.
And I've noticed it has to be a cathartic experience, I'd imagine, where you feel like this enjoyable, just experience of being able to deliver this stuff. But something as simple as I had a good day because, I was able to walk my dog, it is in your world of this Good News podcast as interesting as, I passed a test or whatever, these bigger, the larger one, perceived larger good news, is because what it's doing, in my opinion, is helping people focus in on the good aspects of life instead of focusing on the negative ones, right? Is that kind of what it's trying to do?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that we do is we work with small and medium-sized businesses at Because Marketing, and that's bcallsmarketing.net. And we work with them on helping them grow their business. We came from a business development and marketing background, so we're adept at creating all the tools, implementing the systems, measuring, and then recalibrating, and then re-engaging. And one of the things that we think is important is to understand the buying behavior of their clients. With that in mind, what are some of the things that you would buy online? Or have you ever bought anything online?
I've bought a couple of things online.
And do you ever buy anything on the Facebook feed? Have you ever said you have? Okay, so tell me about that.
It's Facebook's logistics, like pushing stuff in your direction, what they think is like something you would
advertising
buy.
Or whatever. Sure.
Yeah. And I always see like T-shirts that are things that I would like to buy.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite shirts actually is a lifeguarding shirt, and it says lifeguard on the front, and on the back it's like, I am a whistle-blowing, child-scaring, thundercloud worshipping lifeguard. And
that is something you would buy.
Yeah,
I can totally get you.
And I bought that.
That's funny.
And as the years have gone by, I've seen other shirts on there that I like. That I'm like that's something I'd buy. Like,
so apparel's a big one for you.
Yeah,
is like they're targeting you and they got them. Okay, so it's working. What do you ever look at a company brand and say, I would buy because of the brand, even if it were a little bit more expensive?
I definitely do that with clothes a lot.
Do you feel like having a good brand, it's going to be a better quality? Or having a good brand is, I believe that, like, for example, a big one is Tom's shoes. For every Tom's shoe that's purchased, they donate one. Every pair of Tom's shoes that's purchased, they wouldn't be sending one shoe to someone, but they donate to someone in need, right? So does any kind of, like, social or corporate responsibility ever factor into, like, your purchasing decisions? Or is that really kind of like, you know what, I know they're doing good, but this is a little too much money. I'm going to go get the cheaper one. Like, what is that kind of, how does that work?
When I buy, at least if we're still talking about online, that doesn't really impact me because usually the companies I buy from I don't know about too well.
Okay.
So that's another thing, even offline, I'm not made too aware of like what companies are doing sometimes. So
it's really more of the companies not letting people know what they're about, right? Making that information accessible.
Like, there are things, like, I've been to shoe stores where they're like, for every shoe you buy, we'll send another pair of shoes to somebody else.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about that until, like, after I made the purchase or a couple weeks later. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
So it made you feel good, but it was, like, posthumously. So it wasn't, like, the reason why you bought, but it might be the reason why you recommend them or buy next time.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe we flip that and tell people about the good things that you're doing up front. One of the biggest hurdles I think people have when it comes to cause marketing is the perception that if I'm benefiting from it, then I'm really invalidating the act itself. It's almost like an exchange of goods or a transaction instead of doing good for the sake of good.
Right.
And I've created this blog, and you can check it out on the website, about it's called The Only Problem with Giving. And my dad used to talk about this all the time with me, right? You read it? So he said the only problem with giving is you get so much in return. It's almost impossible to give to somebody without getting something back. Like, it's the way the universe reinforces that behavior, right? So we need to feel good. We need to be able to donate and generate these good feelings so that we continue to do it, right? For our survival of our culture. So the whole concept is, if you can get over this personal mental challenge that you should not benefit from doing good, you can actually become an accelerator of your own goodness because you can bring in more goodness, right? So you can say, okay, well, I've raised a lot of money because I'm successful in business, which means I can do even more good and create more awareness. Exactly. Do you have any subscriptions that you purchase?
For a very long time, had Netflix.
Okay.
That was a big one in my life. I got Netflix just because when I got it was like a Christmas present. I got a PS3 my freshman year of high school, and one of the things they offered was Netflix on there, and I was like, all right, why not? And I've had it since then. Okay. My family actually used to have it back when it was a DVD thing. I remember a long time ago, we'd just go online, click it, and order a DVD. That was like that was luxury for us back then.
So what I'm hearing is that you don't have it anymore, right?
Yeah.
No, is it a money thing or is it a value thing? Like, if I had more value, like if I were able to stream like immediately, it'd be better. Or is it just like I'm trying to reduce my cost?
It's a money thing, and I'm sad to say it.
But you're a college student.
Yeah,
I mean, you always try to be, as not tight-fisted, but you want to be as like judicious with your finances as possible.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit about where you feel like companies don't do as good of a job and we touched on this a little bit before, and we talked about like, hey, they're not like communicating their message and what they're all about.
Right.
But where do you feel like the biggest impact they could make if they just made a few changes?
Well, I think that there's just communication is a very important thing. Like a lot of people, they try and keep a professional wall between this and that. And I mean, on some levels, it's important to like still be a professional company and everything. But a company that has like good social media and like is able to talk to their clients and everything is one that gets popular. Like I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter or anything, but there's Wendy's. They have a Twitter account that's hilarious, and people laugh at that.
Right.
And they think about it. They're like, hey, I'm going to talk about Wendy's now and share it with their friends and everything. So I'm not saying like you got to have a comedian on Twitter or anything, but just communicating with customers and everything. Like I'm a big like call the supervisor if I wasn't thrilled with the meal sort of thing.
Wow.
So like I like to reach out and talk to people so they can improve it.
I've always been afraid of that though.
Well,
like, are you going to spit in my burger? Like,
I figure I'm also not a very confrontational person, so I'll call them after I've left. But
I love it. No, I mean, it takes some courage, honestly, to kind of call people out on poor performance.
Right.
But it's like the most important thing you can do for improving what you are is have candid feedback. I think that what you're saying is, if I can kind of summarize it, is be accessible and authentic.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you can know who you really are and clarify that to yourselves and your employees, and then you can communicate that in a way that seems like it's accessible to individuals, right? And then it comes off as genuine, then that's like the key to like creating this long-lasting relationship with a company, right? What we're doing right now is we actually have cameras, and I can't turn this around because you're locked in, but we have 2 other cameras set up here. This one's the live stream, which is unfiltered, unedited, raw, all the kinds of mess ups and stumbles and ums and ahs and all that. And then we have 2 that we're going to professionally edit. And it kind of, and we talked about this, encapsulates both of those. Right. One of which is authentic, that we're creating a dialogue that we can talk to our viewers back and forth, engage with them, be more authentic. Right. And the others, which can be more produced, which has, I think, an important benefit as well, is delivering content and information in an engaging way. Right. Like you can polish it up and make people like get it in a quick way. Is there anything else that like has ever driven you to purchase something online, or are you going to like the traditional methods of going like to Amazon? What's the best price? Let me check eBay. Like, are you price driven as a millennial, or do you feel most millennials are? I definitely think most millennials are price driven. Okay. I think I'm actually a bit more price driven than a lot of others are, because like I sat through a conversation today where I was listening to you guys talk about getting new pairs of shoes or something like that, and I know a lot of guys are into their shoes and everything. I could care less. I need something on my feet, but. I'm the kind of guy that's gonna like look and see, okay, is this on Amazon? Okay, is it on Wish for $2? Let me look around. And so would you, like, for example, if it were $2 cheaper on Amazon, but it meant you had to wait an extra week, like, do you care that much about the price? If I had to wait an extra week, like, I generally won't care unless it's something that I need like immediately. As long as I know I'm getting a quality product, then I will wait. Young millennials, and let's keep in mind that millennials is a fuzzy age range, but we were born in 1998. Yes, 1998. So it puts Quinn at the back end of the millennial spectrum. But with that in mind, there are a lot of millennials that have started to graduate and enter the workforce that might not be as price sensitive. So when you're looking at price, is there any sort of like, okay, I want the best price, but I also want the most features or most value or most like, or is it just like the cheapest one? It really depends on what I'm going for. For like, if I'm going for an electronic device, I definitely want the quality for it, because I don't want to invest in something that's going to break after a week or two. Right. I bought a speaker once, like similar to the one that you're giving away. Yeah, and I was looking for it, and I was like, all right, well, it's expensive, but I'm investing in it. I want something good, so I'm willing to pay the money for it. And that makes sense. It works perfectly. I've had it for a long time, and it's great. So, and we hear this a lot about having a race to the bottom on pricing, but what we believe is menu options often work really well for people that are producing products and services that appeal to a very price-sensitive market. So you might have a product that's more expensive if you can figure out a way to reduce some of the features or reduce your own cost to have multiple options that, hey, we have this affordable one that you can keep now, but now that's a client that when they can afford your better product, they have brand loyalty, trust, they really have a good experience with your product, and then they can get the upgraded version or the upgraded service or package. So having menu options inherently changes people's perception from asking the question, do you want it or not, which is a yes or no response, to which one do you want?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
so
that definitely works.
It's powerful. Technically, millennials, just to be clear, are not digital natives. They remember even someone as young as Quinn, a time where there was no internet.
Too.
It was a dark, dark day. So really, Generation Y is still evolving, is still growing into the internet era, where Generation Z, that's after you, 2005 and so on. Those people live in a world where there was always an iPhone, always internet, always high-speed bandwidth, et cetera, et cetera. So you remember a time beforehand.
Yeah.
How has that influenced your life? I mean, you're on your phone a lot, right? You're still...
I know, I am the generation of the kids that are always on their phone and everything, and I definitely have my parents tell me to get off my phone every once in a while. But I find that a lot of the millennials that, like my age, that are on their phones, I mean, I know a lot of them are very distracted by the phones and everything, but I tend to be on it for communication, and I'm just usually talking to a lot of people.
No, that's interesting because, and I wanted to look this up. It's an application on the iPhone. I'm sure they have one for Android, but it's called Moment. And Moment is a free application that literally allows you to track how much time and usage you have on your phone, and I believe you can see what apps you're using, and you can set limitations. So like, hey, don't let me be on Facebook for more than an hour today, right? It's almost like having a healthy diet. Like, you are forced to eat food, so you're forced to make decisions. It's not like smoking, where you don't have to smoke to live, right? But you're forced to confront an addiction if you're addicted to food by you're having to eat it every day. Same thing with your phone. Most of us are forced to use our phone, right? So the ability for us to use it in a better quality way or a more productive way, maybe that's something that's less distracting. We talk about this all the time, and Simon Sinek talks about this. I think this is interesting, is that when we are constantly engaged with our phone, we're missing all these little moments in the world that inspire creativity and engender community and all these things. Like, so you have this interesting phenomenon. What do you think about that?
I think that's interesting because, like, there's so much that you miss when you're just constantly scrolling through your feeds and everything. And I mean, I don't really want to say that like creativity is like dying down or anything, but everyone, great things happened before there was internet, and I'm sure great things have happened since too. But like, they didn't use the internet to build the Statue of Liberty or the Eiffel Tower or anything. And I don't think that I'm like a dumber person or anything just because of the amount of time I spend on the internet, but I do feel like I could be doing better things with my time, like researching and understanding things better. And
it's almost like before the internet, it was the clicking the TV clicker channel, right? My parents called it the clicker, clicking it, and there's like literally no entertainment on. You're just doing it just for the sake of doing it. You don't even realize. It's almost like this mechanized. You become kind of this autonoma just doing it, right? So I did, because you have the Good News podcast or vlog, I do have some really interesting information about the positive side of the internet. We've seen an incredibly drastic drop-off in drug use, recreational drug use, over the last 10 years. Wow. And a lot of people have attributed that to cigarette smoking decrease, right? But what is really happening is that you no longer have this sense of rebellion because, you have live streaming and group chats and stuff with your friends. You don't have to like go meet up and rebel, kind of like sneak out and then go smoke a cigarette together. You're literally communicating with them at all times with Snapchat and Facebook. And so you have that feeling of connectedness. So you don't have to go out and do it. So there's not a lot of smoking, and there's not a lot of that next step of the harder drugs, which I find really fascinating. Most people don't think, well, the internet's keeping me from this heavy drug use. I mean, but you can look at the positive and negative of anything, right? That's your vlog.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the internet good? Yeah, I mean, sharing information, collaborating, connecting. In this case, keeping people off drugs.
Right.
And then you can also it can be abused.
Yeah, definitely.
Do companies care about their algorithms to reach a particular audience? So I can answer that. I think that reaching a particular audience requires that there's a little tweaking that goes along with this. You have to know what you are first, and then you have to know who would benefit from that. So obviously, for someone that does family law services, you're not going to be doing Facebook campaigns that are for never married, no children.
Right. Yeah.
The first thing you're going to do is do you have a child?
Mm-hmm.
And then there are going to be single and divorce, single and married statuses that you want to pull into that campaign.
Mm-hmm.
But it's knowing who your audience is and kind of targeting those specific people. And then when it comes to Facebook advertising, and this is a little off subject, you do two things. Is you create an engaging and compelling reason to give you their information, number one. And number two is for the people that don't give you the information, but they clicked on the ad, you retarget them, right? So, and we can talk about that directly. Thank you, Preston. Do you think that the quality of products has diminished because companies are focused more on creating a cheap product that people can afford? I got to use cheap, products to build it, right?
Yeah. I've had conversations with people before, and a lot of people say, "Oh, things are built to be broken." I don't think that exactly. I think maybe some companies might build stuff to where it breaks and you have to get something new, but for me in particular, I just think that what they really are trying to do, especially with cars and everything, is the idea of people need this, we need to get it out fast, and we need to get it out, it's quantity over quality these days. So,
well, that's a good point, because you shave, right?
Yeah.
Gillette can make a razor that can last 20 years, right? But they choose to make one that lasts a few weeks, maybe, if you're depending on how much you shave. Obviously, I don't shave a whole lot. But the question is, does that benefit the consumer? If they were to make a razor that cost $400,
right? That's
the problem. We're so price sensitive.
There are those razors out there that are really expensive, and I'm just I'm not even going to touch that. I'm going to go buy the $7 pack.
That's the point. I think that kind of comes full circle. I can afford this one here today, but I'm going to have to keep feeding this beast and keep buying it over and over and over again. So it's not that in my opinion, that there's less quality products on the market, but now there's more of array of price range and quality. There's more accessibility. Now, instead of having one company that all they do is create these sterling silver blades that you sharpen, right? You have access to tens of thousands of razor companies, whether it's Harry's or the Shave Club or whatever it is, Dollar Shave Club.
Right.
That's not a paid plug, by the way.
Yeah.
But you have all these different companies that are offering different values, and you have subscription models, and that's interesting because now I don't even got to think about going and buying a razor. But then there's some people that are like, hey man, I see the value of buying this product one time and not having to buy it ever again.
Yeah.
But you have to have the cash up front to do that.
Right, that's the thing.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the rub. So, summarize the millennials and how they buy for me. Let's just wrap this up.
Okay. From what I know, they're a very progressive, sort of minded group of people. They like to see that what they're buying is used for something and goes to things. I know people that'll go to Starbucks because of the things that it'll do, or the people that it'll help and everything. This is just kind of redirecting back to what we talked about earlier. If companies were more forward about things that they were doing like that, then it would definitely it would make a lot more millennials more interested and excited to be buying stuff. Because from what I know, my college friends and everything, our money is very tight and everything, and it's hard to focus in on what we want to spend money on. But having something that, number one, benefits us, and number two, can benefit society, which is a big thing that I focus on, is something that we're all definitely into.
We've seen more entrepreneurs from the millennials till now than we've ever seen in our lifetime, which you think is kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Because there's more access to becoming an entrepreneur. For example, you can develop an iPhone app and become a millionaire. It
Right.
just hits, right? If you're a little kid, develop an iPhone app, right? Flappy Bird and stuff into it, and you become a millionaire. Same is true for crowdfunding, right? And Indiegogo and Kickstarter, and you can do that. Let me ask you: have you ever looked at any of those projects? Have you ever invested in any of those? Have you ever considered any of that?
I've actually been on the receiving end of some of those, like GoFundMe and stuff.
The GoFundMe accounts. That's cool.
Those.
So tell us about your experience with that.
It's a really great thing. I really love those systems because, I mean, I've had things like nationals and stuff. That's what I usually use it for, is like going for really expensive theater trips and stuff. And we do things. I don't know if everyone does this when they have GoFundMes and stuff, but we like to do projects and performances and then post them onto that thing and then share it with Facebook and everything so that they can see this is what you're benefiting, this is what you're helping out. So those things are really, really helpful to like raise awareness and raise money and stuff. And you know, when I have the money, I would like to go on there and share.
Tell me about live streaming. Have you done any live streaming in your life other than this?
I have not done much live streaming before.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure this is the only thing. Like my thing is in the style of live streaming, except I just post it afterwards.
Right.
But yeah, I haven't done it. I've watched some people do it before. Some people do it better than others.
Well, what makes a good live stream to you? Like, is it like the person? Is it the content, the subject matter? Like,
I think you got to have something behind it, because what's important is like something like this, or something like if you were at like a concert or something and you want to live stream that's cool.
Kind of neat. Yeah. Live streaming. So I do want to touch this just really quickly. Within 5 years, it's estimated by the year 2022. Is that 5 years? Yeah. That it will be a $70 billion $70 billion industry. Right.
Really?
So you have a lot of companies that are like starting to get into it. One of them is Live Me. If you go look at Live Me, and they do a really cool job with gamification. So they make you feel like you're earning points and coins, and you can actually make money, which is kind of cool. But it's a social engagement. And then you have companies like Musical.ly, and Musical.ly is more, or You Now is another one. Livestream is another one. Facebook obviously has one. Twitter has one. So there's a lot of these different companies getting into the live streaming game. Periscope is another one. They all have different like perceptions. Like Periscope wants to use the camera on the back of your phone so that you can show events. Where like You Now and Live Me, they want you. It defaults to the camera in front of you. It's like you're the star, right? This is the new TV. And I get to determine if I'm on TV or not. Right? Yeah. It's like I don't need a producer to come in and like I have to pitch them, and like this is TV because everyone's watching it like a TV. Yeah. Do you think that is interesting for your age group or what?
I think it's interesting the stuff that people will watch these days, because I tried to go on to Live Me and I might have not been good at it, like what I was looking for, because I just clicked on some random things to watch videos and stuff.
You just weren't finding the content that was interesting.
I was finding people sitting on a bed talking, and I was like, even if it's not something that is like ingenious or anything, like I just want something that either I can relate to or I'll enjoy listening to. Like I just found a YouTuber last night that just talks about Broadway shows and everything. That's cool. I'm like, okay, I'm listening to this now. Okay.
So I had a similar experience when I was first on some of these social networking. I was on Live Me, and it's really engaging. And the gamification, if you can learn to gamify your business in the right way, you can create a lot of sticky factor, traction of keeping that person coming back and come back. And really what I found was that the platform itself isn't conducive to sharing quality content, because you're constantly getting new people come on, and to do that you have to repeat the same message over and over and over again, and you're asking them, give me this, and I'll give you that, and all what takes over is just this like transaction. Right. So that's the perception. But there are some people on it like, I don't care about the money, I don't care about becoming a Live Me star, I just want to show people what I'm doing. So there was this gentleman that had his arm cut off here, and he was playing the guitar. He was able to play the guitar, the acoustic guitar, and sing, and he was just there jamming out, and he had a good voice, and I was like, there are people out there that are like this, that are really engaging to watch. Right. So I feel like it's any other social media network, like Facebook. Like there are people that are using social media in the wrong way, and there are people using it in the right way. So hopefully the platform kind of like, what I call incentivizes people to do the more engaging content-driven things than just, the fodder of being online.
Yeah. And one of those, another app that was really great about, I don't know exactly what the fate of it was, but Vine
It died.
It died, but like
the 9-second like
I don't know how, because that
Yeah.
was incredibly popular.
Yeah.
Like I never really got into it,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed watching it, and there were some of the hilarious things on there.
Right.
People like could have, if that was a monetary thing, people could have made careers off of that.
I mean, you bring up a good point, because Vine, with these little 9-second video clips that people like, it forced people to be creative, because you had to do something compelling in 9 seconds.
Right.
But what it also speaks to is, just like the Twitterverse, that we're going to force you to create a rational,
Very
coherent thought in
small.
140 whatever characters.
Right.
So, but they're saying that our market, our culture, our society wants this, it's a short attention span
Right.
theater.
Like, fast little.
Yeah, like you don't want the long form
Mhm.
articles that go deep into depth that take you 4 months to write. We want, the short blog that gets to the point.
Right.
All right, cool. Well, thank you guys so much, and thank you so much. I appreciate it, Quinn.
Yeah.
All right, bye, guys. I feel a little nervous, although I shouldn't,
Yeah.
because it's like not a big deal, but it's kind of funny. I think that the live stream is what ramps up the intensity,
Oh yeah.
because it's like it's authentic. It's what you are. Like, you can mess up, you can say something bad.
I've gotten used to that sort of feeling, because
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm recording by myself, it's not really that big of a deal, because I can go back and redo it if I really wanted to.
Yeah.
But when I get someone else on the phone and I'm talking to them for the only hour I've got them for,
Yeah.
I'm just like, can't mess this up, can't say
Yeah,
something
that's
stupid.
true. That's true. Like, if
Um,
you have an interview situation.
Yeah.